Coach, moving forward from the SoCon Championship tournament on Saturday, the Mountaineers win the team title by almost 20 points, have 5 champions, 6 finalists. I think every starter placed in the top 4. Can you just kind of recap, just how you thought the team performed on Saturday?
Well, I think Saturday probably is one of the most memorable tournament experiences I've ever had as a coach. It took all 10 guys battling all day long, and it wasn't really decided until the finals. And so our guys had to stay, they had to stay committed and stay, with a purpose through the entire tournament. Because if one guy would have faltered and not stepped up when we needed them, it could have been a different result. But I was just really proud of our guys, the way they battled. Obviously having 5 champs, and our finals performance, going 5 for 6 in the finals, was phenomenal. I think that tied the program record for most individual champions. So proud of that, and just the way that our guys closed the tournament. They gave us an opportunity with all those bonus points in those early rounds, and then every single guy in our lineup stepped up at some particular point in the day when we needed them to, and it was an overall team effort.
We had the dramatic wins from Ethan and Tomas, last-second takedowns. Is there something about this program that you think kind of contributes to being able to pull out matches like that on that stage?
Yeah, I think it's our core identity. I think if you if you would ask someone that probably from the outside looking into our program, they would tell you that our guys are always going to be tough, and they're going to wrestle hard, and they're going to be in outstanding shape. And I think that those 2 matches are just a prime example of kind of our core identity and what we're about here at Appalachian State, being tough, gritty, staying with it till the very end, and always being in good enough shape to win matches late. And really proud of the way those guys performed and the way they got it done at the end of those matches.
For maybe anybody in the audience who isn't a super knowledgeable wrestling fan, I guess in Tomas's match, he kind of explained he's up or he's down 3-0, and just kind of how that all plays out with trying to cut a guy, there's stall points involved. Just can you kind of go play by play, hit by hit on what that actually looked like for fans?
Yeah, so at the end of the first period, we got taken down the first period and got ridden, and I think we almost had over 2 minutes of riding time against us going in the second period. They deferred to us. It was our choice, so I put Tomas on his feet because I felt like we struggled to get off the bottom, so I didn't want to put him underneath there and waste a whole period being underneath our opponent. Was hopeful we'd get a takedown the second period. We weren't able to get a takedown, so it's still 3-0 going into the third period, down to little over 2 minutes of riding time. So when they chose down, I knew that if we cut him and took him down, it was going to be hard maybe to get multiple takedowns. So I thought we needed to run the riding time off because without running the riding time off, we probably have to get 3 takedowns. And so we're hopeful we could get a turn maybe. Tomas rode him out, got the riding time down. As soon as it went below a minute, I told him to cut him because at that point I think they had a stall call, so they had a stall warning. We got rid of the riding time and had erased it. And I felt like at that point now we just got to get either a takedown and a stall call or 2 takedowns, and we get the first takedown get the first takedown, and we knew we had to cut him to get one more. Well, then they get us, or actually we were trying to let him go, and the guy didn't want to let us have an escape because there was only like 15 seconds left. At that point, we got the second stall call, which gave us a point. So at that point, we knew a takedown, would win the match. So we cut him, got the takedown, and ended up winning. I think the final score was 5-4. Was ended up being the final score. But just a testament to why you never stop wrestling. You always compete hard to the very end, and it was that was a back and forth match and a lot of strategy involved, and kind of making that third period count for us.
And then Ethan gets on a shot with maybe 30 seconds or so and is trying to finish it off. Just from what you're seeing, how does that go from, hey, he's in position to be able to close it out and get that right before the buzzer?
Yeah, he went to a single leg, and kind of got caught in a little bit of a backdoor position, which can take a little bit of time to finish, which is not ideal in those short time scenarios. You typically want to get up to your feet, try to finish clean, and explode through your opponent. So when he got there, it was a little troublesome because that can take a little while to play out and maybe to secure a takedown. Fortunately, he got the leg passed right with about, I think there was maybe 10 seconds left, and I think the opponent kind of thought the leg pass was going to buy him enough time, and I think Oakley was able to kind of roll through that leg pass, get behind both arms and behind his opponent's hips. And I think, you look at it on the replay, I think maybe there was 2 to 1 seconds left. Like, it was right at the buzzer when he finally secured that takedown. But again, just wrestling through all positions and never giving up to the very end.
You mentioned the team effort, and was there a match as it was going on, maybe a preliminary round or consolation that, I mean, there were probably a couple of, hey, like, this is going to be big, and it worked out. I mean, I think of some overtime wins. I think of some pins that get those bonus points. Or is there a moment or two you're like, hey, this might end up, being really, really important?
Well, I think I knew that it was all going to be important. Just looking at the seeds, I mean, we were, pretty heavily favored underdogs. I mean, just looking at the seeds when they were released, I mean, we only had, I think, 3 number 1 seeds as opposed to their 6. And so I knew that we needed to have, a really a great. Or actually, I think we only had 2 number 1s or 3 number 1 seeds. That's right. But I think we had to secure those bonus points. I knew in those early rounds they were going to get a lot of bonus points, and I knew it was going to be important for us to keep pace with them until we got a chance to knock them off head to head, or maybe try to win it in the finals. I knew we had to keep pace with them, and those bonus points were extremely important. We talked about it in practice the week prior. Our guys knew that we were going to have to be going for pins. I think we ended up having 8 or 9 pins on the day. Quite a few major decisions, tech falls, and I think ultimately those were all important until we got in that final round. And then it was just us. We were kind of, us and Campbell had the same number of guys in the consolation, same number of guys in the championship. In the second round of consolations, a big match was when Ike Byers dropped into the kid from Campbell in that second round of consolations. So the loser does not get placement points, and I think it was a last second victory in that match. So that match was really important. But then also those 4 guys that were in the consolation, Carson Floyd gets bonus points in both of his consolation matches. Luke Uliano gets 2 pins. Chad Bellis gets a pin, advances to the consolation final. So every single one of those matches mattered. And then it was still, the tournament was still in question when we got to the finals. We had 6 finalists, they had 6 finalists, and I thought our guys had an unbelievable performance in the finals, going 5 for 6 and ultimately securing that team title.
Coach, as you think about this team, kind of from the beginning to where you are currently, you had some transition this season. You had some iconic guys leaving the program, and that meant some younger, newer faces were going to have to step to the forefront. You lost a head-to-head match with Campbell earlier in the season. You come back and you reverse that on them in the tournament. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the development arc that you saw from this team and what they were able to accomplish in, starting with a lot of maybe unproven faces and going in and becoming really a dominant tournament champion?
Yeah, I think, when you look at it, overall, I mean, we lost, like you mentioned, we lost some really key figures that were in our lineup for several years, not just last year, but they had been, permanent guys in our lineup for the last 3 or 4 years. And we lost 3 return NCAA qualifiers. We lost a 2-time All-American, another conference champ. And so losing those guys, we knew that this year we were going to have some new faces, and that those guys were going to have to develop and improve. I think a lot of people probably thought it was going to be a rebuilding year for us, just with the number of guys that we lost from last year's starting lineup. We didn't feel that way. We felt like we had a strong culture and we had guys that could step up. But like you mentioned, in November, we were not the same team that we are right now. I mean, we had some early struggles, some ups and downs. We had a couple weight classes that it took us almost to January to figure out who our starter was. And, I just think that our guys just did a tremendous job staying committed to the process. I also want to give my assistant coaches a shout out, Diabe, Patterson, and Richard. I mean, those guys have done a phenomenal job helping develop these guys and doing a lot of one-on-ones and individual work in the room. So I do think it's important to, give my assistant coaches a shout out. I mean, I think they did a great job of helping develop some of those guys and help get them to a point to where we could have the kind of performance we did on Saturday, because it took more than one guy. It was multiple guys. And so, I think our guys have done a tremendous job staying committed to the process, buying into our team culture, and I think it proved dividends on Saturday.
When it comes to those situations that you were just talking about with, those very late wins, if you're talking team sports, it's very common to see them work on end-of-game situations repeatedly. Wrestling's a little bit different in that it's so individual, but, when it comes to preparing for all possible conditions, what is it that you do from a practice standpoint to get those guys prepped for a moment like that? And is there a strategy to it, or is that when you just have to rely on your wrestling instincts?
No, it's definitely something you can implement in practice. I'll just use Ethan Oakley for an example. I did his individual workout the week prior to the conference tournament, and I'd given him, I think, 5 scenarios, and we wrestled those scenarios in that workout. And then one of them was down by 2, 30 seconds to go. You've got to have a takedown and a ride out to win, big match. And there was 4 other ones, and he screenshotted it on his phone, those scenarios, so he could mentally be thinking about, I'm in this scenario, what do I got to do, put myself in that scenario. So we'd actually trained that specific scenario, being down 30 seconds on the clock, the guy's got a 2-point lead, and so you not only have to take him down, but you have to ride him out. And so we practiced it over and over and over again, and I think he felt comfortable in that moment, that knowing that he was prepared for it. And there are extreme situations in all these matches that you do your best to prepare them for. Try to put them in that moment over and over again, so if they get in it in a big time match, they don't panic. Maybe they can kind of draw some confidence in knowing that they've trained that specific situation before. So yeah, we train a lot of situations in our practice room. Those kind of scenarios, being down, being up, short time on the clock, being in certain positions that you get to a lot, and learning how to win the position, depending on whether you're the offensive man or the defensive man. And so, yeah, we try to implement those. I think our guys were prepared for them.
There are a lot of great rivalries in App State sports history, and I think maybe one of the ones that doesn't get as much attention as it probably should is App State and Campbell when it comes to wrestling. Can you talk a little bit about the rivalry that's developed there and what the significance of it is?
Well, I think Campbell, when they came into Southern Conference, I think they kind of they wanted to create a rivalry with us. I mean, their school made a huge commitment to the sport of wrestling. Financially, they invested a ton of money into it, new facility, funding all their scholarships, coaching staff. So they invested a lot in the sport of wrestling. Well, when they look in the conference, I think they saw that Appalachian State was one of the top programs and somebody that they wanted to create a rivalry with. And so that rivalry has kind of evolved over the last probably 7-8 years, where they've been very competitive. They've been nationally ranked. They've won a couple of conference titles, and so it's kind of developed into a rivalry. And it wasn't necessarily a rivalry when I first started my coaching career, but as of late, yeah, they've become a pretty big rival for us, and I know that we are for them.
Coach, looking forward to Kansas City. You'll send 5 wrestlers there. Just what does the prep look like for that, I guess, first off, before you kind of get into the just your expectations and hopes for Kansas City?
Well, we still, we're about 9 days out still from our guys actually competing in Kansas City. So we're still training. Our workouts are not that long, but we're very focused and, focused on our guys, just focusing on the details of what they do and what makes them successful, trying to sharpen those skills, fine-tune a little bit of their conditioning, and then we'll make sure our guys are recovered and rested leading into the weekend, heading into next week, because the work's done. At this point in the year, the body of work is done. You don't want to overtrain your guys. You want to make sure that they stay loose, stay mentally fresh, and make sure their bodies feel good when we go to Kansas City. And so that's what we're doing, taking care of our guys. We're on spring break this week, so we have a little more flexibility in the times we train, and we have a fewer guys that we're kind of focused on, so it can get pretty specific and detailed for individuals.
You have 4 guys who've been ranked most of the year who did compete there last year in Tulsa, and then you've got Tomas, the true freshman. Is there anything that you think a lot of those guys learned from last year that can be useful as they go kind of for round 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you've been to the national tournament before, you know what to expect. And I think that was, specifically for like a guy like Will Miller or Tommy Askey, which it was their first appearance at the national tournament. The first time you walk out of that tunnel in front of, 20-some thousand fans and in a big arena and the pressure and the emotions, it's something to digest. And I think having that experience that they can have in the back of their mind, that they know leading into this what to expect, there's no doubt it's going to prepare them better. And I think they'll be able to handle those emotions, handle the stress of it better. And, we've put a lot of emphasis on our guys. Like, this is what's important. We had a great weekend last weekend. couldn't be more proud of the conference championship and the way our guys competed. But make no mistake about it, the NCAA tournament is really important to us. We want to go there. We want to have All-Americans, and we want to have a top 20 team finish. And so that's been our focus. That's been the message to the guys. And I think our guys are confident and ready.